Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Baldrige Foundation's quarterly webinar. Today's topic is the 2022 Baldrige Enterprise Update. Our agenda, before we get started on our agenda today, I'd like to recognize all of our sponsors, especially those who represent the Mac Baldrige Society and trustees of the Institute for Performance Excellence. Without their support, programs like today would not be possible. Here is today's agenda and guest presenters. Bob Fangmeyer, the director of the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program. Myself, Brian Lassiter, chair for the Alliance for Performance Excellence. Lowell Kruse, representing the Community of Excellence 2026. And now I'm going to turn it over to Bob for his presentation. Bob?
Well, thanks, Al. And hello, everybody. It's great to be here. And I really appreciate having the opportunity to provide an update to you on the program. So I wanted to share a preview of 2022, starting with the high points from an operational perspective, and then get into some of our strategic initiatives that we'll be working on this year. As I'm sure most of you have either observed or experienced yourselves, the Baldrige staff have been teleworking since March of 2022, and that's going to remain true for at least the next month, probably the next 2 months. And as far as I'm concerned, we have shown that we can effectively operate in a 100% telework environment. So I do expect that we will eventually minimize the time in the office. But what that means is going to depend upon NIST and the Department of Commerce's policies. That said, many of our offerings in our events really do benefit from an in-person approach. That includes, of course, the Baldrige Executive Fellows, our judges and overseers meetings, and the plan is currently to return to a fully in-person event for all of the fellows meetings and employ a mixed model for the judges and overseers. Specifically, we want to bring the judges and the overseers together for the June meeting, where we have a joint session of the two. And then the other meetings will likely be virtual. The one that's still in question is the end of the year meeting with the judges, where they make their recommendations for the award. There is some value of having that in person, but we'll see how that progresses. Jerry, if you'd go on to the next slide, please. Of course, one of the events that has been sorely missed during the pandemic is the annual award ceremony and the Quest for Excellence conference, where we get to bring together the Baldrige community and honor and celebrate the new Baldrige Award recipients. We get to learn from new and prior award recipients, and we get to network with folks from all across the Baldrige enterprise. So we are very excited to finally be back in person for these events, which, as you probably are aware, kick off just over a week from now on April 2nd at the Gaylord National Harbor Resort just outside of DC. Since we couldn't bring people together, and because our award recipients told us that they would prefer to wait for an in-person event rather than attempting a virtual award ceremony for the past 2 years, we have the privilege of honoring 14 award recipients on April 2nd, covering 2019, 2020, and 2021. And just look at this. What an awesome group we have. We have 2 3-time award recipients, Mesa and Midway USA. We have 3 2-time recipients to honor, Elevations Credit Union, the Charter School of San Diego, and Mid-America Transplant. We also have an organization that everybody knows, AARP. We have 2 recipients from the Baldrige program's home state of Maryland, Howard Community College, and Greater Baltimore Medical Center. GBMC is a part of a diverse group of 4 healthcare recipients, the others being Adventist Health White Memorial, Mary Greeley Medical Center, and Wellstar Paulding Hospital. We have a second organ transplant organization in addition to Mid-America, that is the Center for Organ Recovery and Education, CORE. We also have the City of Germantown, Tennessee, and the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. What an incredible testament to the fact that the Baldrige Framework can help any organization achieve outstanding results, and not just for a short while, but for many, many years. Next slide, please. So after 2 years of redesign and piloting, followed by 2 more years of delay due to the COVID pandemic, we are finally rolling out significant changes to the award process that will simplify the work of the examiners, while enhancing the effectiveness and the quality of the evaluation and improve the feedback to the applicants. Highlights of the changes include eliminating certain low value added steps that tended to create a fair amount of rework for the examiners. We are enabling the team to engage with the organization through virtual meetings prior to any evaluation is done, so that the organization can clarify information that is in their application. And we're also simplifying the feedback commentary for ease of construction by the examiners and ease of understanding by the applicants. In addition, the applicant will receive significantly more information from the examiners on how they came to their scoring decisions. A hybrid site visit has always been part of the redesigned process. So really the past 2 years have enabled us to test the virtual site visit component and understand how to best integrate that into the redesign. In this case, hybrid means a virtual component with the whole team and the applicant in advance of an in-person component that will be shorter in duration than a typical site visit, more limited in scope, and with fewer examiners. This, of course, has an added benefit of reducing the burden that the site visit puts on examiners and applicants. Feedback from the examiners and the applicant organizations who've gone through this pilot process has been very positive, and several Alliance programs have already adopted the new approach, and I'm quite sure that others will soon follow. Next slide, please. So examiner training is another one of those offerings that does benefit from an in-person component. However, currently we still do not have access to NIST's conference rooms, nor the ability to host hundreds of examiners on a NIST campus. Plus, in the past, many examiners complained about the time and the cost to travel to NIST and to stay for 4 or 5 days. I know for a fact that we lost many good examiners due to the previous requirement to attend in person. Obviously, that's not been possible in the past 2 years. And I think going forward, examiner training may need to remain largely virtual, but we'll see how this evolves. Over the past 2 years, we've developed I think, a very effective and robust virtual training program that leverages independent work, online training modules, and group discussions over an extended 7-week period. That extended time really allows the examiners to do the work at their convenience. It allows time to reinforce key learning objectives through built-in quizzes and group discussions. And of course, much of the training content has changed for this year because of the revised evaluation process. So we're expecting it'll be a little bit more challenging than it would otherwise, despite the fact that we really have come a long way in our online training capability, capacity, and content. Next slide. So for me, it's kind of hard to believe, but it is that time again. We have been requesting and collecting inputs for improvement to the Baldrige Excellence Framework, and we're working through our normal process of considering insights from recent articles and studies, inputs from individuals and key contributors. We are will be holding numerous focus groups, and of course, we'll be reviewing and incorporating feedback from our customers and other key stakeholders. It's early in the process, but clearly there's going to be an increased attention to what is currently in the framework and what we have to say around workforce, supply chain, agility, resilience, et cetera, all those things that have been so tremendously impacted over the past couple of years. We're going to be having 6 virtual focus groups. Each will be comprised of a diverse representation of our various stakeholders, including various different perspectives. These will be held in May and June, where the task groups will review the inputs and make recommendations for specific changes to the criteria. That then is followed by a crafting of draft changes to the framework, which is sent out to be reviewed by additional key stakeholders before we draft final drafts and finalize the content and make the frameworks, the updated frameworks available in late December and early January. Next slide. So I put this on here, this 1-page strategic plan on here. Ooh, it got the fonts all changed. Sorry about that. You probably can't read it at all. But really just to point out the program's 3 strategic objectives: sustain the program, enhance our reach and impact, and strengthen the Baldrige enterprise, and the 8 strategic goals that support those. All of the new initiatives that we engage in align to these goals and objectives. Next slide, please. So some of the strategic initiatives that we anticipate being very active during 2022. First, the Job Quality Framework. This is an outgrowth of our partnering with the Department of Commerce over the past 3 years to support various workforce excellence initiatives. This particular framework is intended to be an easy-to-use tool for organizations of all kinds, but especially small and medium-sized organizations. The framework attempts to educate leaders on the benefits of offering high-quality jobs to their workforce, and also offer those leaders a menu of various strategies and actions that they can take to move the needle on one or more of the key drivers of job quality. Our approach has included a fair amount of research and a tremendous amount of engagement with various experts and advocates in this space. Maybe like the regular Baldrige framework, the biggest challenge has been trying to keep this framework, from expanding too much and becoming more intimidating and thereby perhaps less useful. Part of the objective for this is to introduce organizations to some of the Baldrige principles and encourage them to engage with their local alliance program in order to help them with improvements in this area, as well as obviously other areas of importance to organizational success. We do expect that this framework will be released around the end of April. Ongoing improvements to the award process. Obviously, we are very pleased to finally be able to implement the streamlined examination process, but we've also always recognized that this was just one side of the coin. Back in 2018, we said that we would first address the evaluation component, and then we would move on to find ways to streamline the process from the perspective of the applicant organization. That call has been taken up by the Baldrige overseers, and a focus group of judges, overseers, applicants, recipients, examiners, alliance programs, and others will be kicking off next week to explore ways to lower barriers to participation and to ways to engage more organizations while still ensuring appropriate outcomes of the evaluation and judging processes. One of our efforts to enhance our sustainability and our reach and impact is to strengthen NIST and the department's understanding and the use of Baldrige. So within NIST, we've played an important role in recent strategic planning efforts. We've been giving much of NIST's leadership an opportunity to have a deeper understanding and awareness of how Baldrige might benefit their own organizations. In addition, within our Innovation and Industry Services Directorate, which Baldrige is a part of, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program is a part of it, the Office of Advanced Manufacturing and the Technology Partnerships Office. Within that group, we've deployed a modified Are We Making Progress and Are We Making Progress as Leaders survey to identify high-level OFEs for each of our programs, as well as for the IIS Directorate as a whole. The intent is to be able to demonstrate to the rest of NIST that even a simple Baldrige-based survey like Are We Making Progress can be of significant benefit to their organization. In addition, we have reserved 2 slots in this year's Fellows Program for senior NIST leaders, which will help both NIST and the Baldrige program. We've got several ongoing efforts that are intended to strengthen our relationship with MEP, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and leverage their network to promote Baldrige and encourage manufacturers to engage with their alliance program. A few quick facts on MEP. This is a national network of 51 centers. There's one in every state and in Puerto Rico. And in 2021, those centers interacted with over 34,000 different manufacturers. So obviously, this is a network that we would like to be able to engage with and connect with. And so our efforts have included promotion of Baldrige and alliance programs in the MEP newsletter. We've done blog interviews with select MEP center directors. We're working on webinars about Baldrige and the alliance with MEP National, which will then be made available to all of the MEP centers themselves. And I'm working to place MEP clients and or center directors on the overseers and judges and other roles of distinction. And we've been working with 2 MEP centers and 2 alliance programs to develop a Baldrige-based assessment for manufacturers to help them understand and improve their preparedness for and their adoption of advanced manufacturing technology solutions. We've been at this with them for nearly a year and are in the midst of piloting 2 different versions of an assessment process with at least 100 manufacturers. The purpose from our perspective is, again, to introduce these organizations to some key Baldrige principles and concepts, to lead them to a realization that they need to have robust, effective processes in place before they try to slap technology on top of it. And we want to encourage them to engage with their alliance program for assistance in improving a broader spectrum of the organization than just their advanced manufacturing technology solutions. We're also heavily involved in NIST's and the department's efforts to develop and implement a diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility strategic plan. Frankly, this is an area that NIST could use some work in, so I do think it will be good for NIST. But we're on a 6-week timeline from start to finish, and that is very challenging. In addition, our work with the department in the area of job quality has led to our participation in the development of an equitable growth framework. This one will be focused on developing a clear government-wide framework that encompasses corporate actions and standards to guide, recognize, or incentivize business practices that lead to a more equitable means of economic growth. The intent is for this framework to be made available by October. So we are looking forward to seeing that come to conclusion and rolled out then. Last and certainly not least, and possibly related to how we can benefit underserved communities, our support for and engagement with the Communities of Excellence effort and our push for the addition of community to the Baldrige Award categories will, of course, continue at full speed. That's all I had for you today, and I will turn it back over to Al.
Hey, thanks, Bob. Really appreciate that update. I'm going to give a few key points here in the areas of advocacy, fundraising, the Institute, and other initiatives of the foundation. The first one is the advocacy update. We work tirelessly to strengthen our position in the federal government with the new administration, which has been very, very supportive of Baldrige. And just as you can see from Bob's briefing, there are a number of new initiatives because this administration has taken a real interest in leveraging Baldrige and all that it can do for our economy. We also look forward to welcoming Dr. Lacasio, who will be the NIST director. She is the current nominee, and we hopefully would like to see her at Quest, but if not, I'm sure shortly thereafter. On the funding side, working with members of Congress and strengthen our relationships with the Commerce, Justice, Science subcommittees in both the House and the Senate, we're pleased to announce that Baldrige was fully funded again this year in FY22 for $2.5 million and has already begun the process for fiscal year 23. So again, we'd like to thank all of the members of Congress who sit on those subcommittees and throughout appropriations who continue to support in a bipartisan way the Baldrige program. A new exciting development is in the House with the Commerce Subcommittee on Space and Science, who in through the Competes Act, which passed several weeks ago, has added community to be the 7th sector of Baldrige. What is needed now is language in the Senate and a separate Senate bill that will match that language in the House, and then a full vote by all of Congress sending a bill to the president, which will make community the 7th sector of the Baldrige Awards. We will hope to see that sometime during FY22 here prior to 1 October. On the fundraising side, the first thing I would like to do is thank all of you out there who continue to support the Baldrige program and the foundation through your giving. And there are a number of ways to do that, from planned giving and estate planning to the individual campaigns throughout the year, our end of year campaign, Giving Tuesday, and other times throughout the year where we ask for your support and you continue to give. We truly do appreciate that. We also want to thank those organizational donors who make up the Mac Baldrige Society and who serve as the trustees of the Institute for Performance Excellence. They are the major donors who allow us to continue to do all of the work we do on your behalf, on behalf of state programs, and behalf of the national program. I'd like to talk a minute about our leadership awards. The Foundation's individual leadership awards again this year have a stellar slate of awardees from diverse backgrounds across all sectors of the economy. We continue to showcase those leaders who continue to support Baldrige and Baldrige's growth in every sector of the economy. This year, we will honor our current slate of awardees on Tuesday at the Foundation's award luncheon at Quest. And shortly thereafter, we will release the FY23 submissions for awards. We encourage all of you to identify a leader out there who is worthy of these awards, and we continue to recognize them in the coming years. I want to talk a little bit about the Institute. I encourage everybody to take a look at the Institute and all that it provides in terms of thought leadership, the publications, the white papers, the videos, the training that we provide. We are continuing to conduct CEO roundtables, the next one coming up in April, just after Quest in Atlanta, where we will bring together healthcare leaders from across the nation to discuss critical issues. And they lead to white paper development on thought leadership, all produced by the Baldrige Foundation and the Institute. In addition to that, we have a number of professional development opportunities in terms of training that are available online, self-paced, and truly at a price point lower than anywhere else you will find in the marketplace, and yet extremely high quality. Nothing but positive feedback in all of our courses to date, and we have future courses coming up, which will be face-to-face classroom type courses in the post-COVID era. I'd like to talk a little bit about one of our partners who is also a Mac Baldrige Society member about healthcare. Along with About Healthcare, we have re-energized the Leader Dialogue program for the Foundation, which generates podcasts, webinars, virtual CEO roundtables, and in-person roundtables. I encourage everyone to go to leaderdialogue.com podcast and listen in on a few of these very insightful leaders talking about contemporary pragmatic solutions and best practices that they share in each and every one of these podcasts. They are truly worth your time and effort. Lastly, we'll talk a little bit about the Quest for Excellence Conference. We're really excited this year, after 3 years, to be back together in person again, celebrating 3 years of award recipients, and would like to thank all of the sponsors who are supporting this year's conference with donations and their support. If you would like to learn more about sponsorship opportunities, please contact Josh Rossett. He is the Director of Corporate Development for the Foundation. Thank you very much. And Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Terrific. Thank you, Al. Appreciate your inviting us to share today, and you as well, Bob, enjoyed your presentation earlier. Quick introduction or reintroduction of who the Alliance is and what our mission's all about. I think many of you on the line may know that, but for those of you that don't, we were founded in 2005, so 17 years ago now, with the mission of helping our members' ability to grow Baldrige-based performance excellence across the nation and now across the world. In many ways, we're considered the front door or the feeder system to the national program, one of the 4 principal parts of the Baldrige enterprise. Go to the next slide, Jerry. So to give you a sense of our footprint and our makeup, our network, we've got 30 programs today that represent state, local, regional programs, a couple of national programs, the American Healthcare Association and National Center for Assisted Living, ACA and CAL, that serve senior care facilities across the nation, and Communities of Excellence 2026, who we'll hear from in a second, that serves communities across the nation trying to apply these principles of excellence. And then one fairly new member, Sterling International, based in Kuala Lumpur and Florida, that serves clients and customers throughout the world. So those are what we used to call program members, but these are our Baldrige-based members that have Baldrige evaluation and recognition within our missions. We have 4 other members, and you'll see them listed there, that are also very supportive of performance excellence for themselves and their clients and their communities. So together, this is the footprint of the Alliance. Give you a sense of, next slide, of volume. I'll give you a second just to read this slide. It's a little bit busy, and it's hot off the press that we do an annual survey every year within our Alliance members to aggregate the statistics and the volume across all of our member programs. We have pretty significant volume in terms of evaluations and recognition, the awards, even though you'll note some decrease here in the COVID year of 2021, pretty much across the board in number of applications received, number of awards given, both top level and other levels, number of examiners we've trained, recipients, and so forth. I think probably no surprise to any of us what happened in the last couple of years. It impacted the Alliance too, and all of our volumes, or aggregate volumes, decreased pretty significantly last year. I will say that anecdotally, a lot of our members, if not most of our members, are claiming or expecting at least increases in 2022 from the pent-up demand. I represent a nonprofit called the Performance Excellence Network, which is one of the 30 Alliance members that serves Minnesota and North and South Dakota, and we expect 4 times the volume this year of assessments and awards given than we experienced last year. So I think there's a lot. We're all hoping a lot of Baldrige activity to happen across the Alliance and the enterprise in the upcoming year or years. But regardless of the decrease last year, the scale is still pretty impressive in the number of applications, awards, examiners trained, conferences held, and attendees in those conferences, paid and unpaid staff. It's all pretty impressive. It's a national and now becoming international network of organizations and individuals really supportive of this whole concept of Baldrige. Go to the next 2 slides. First one fairly briefly, and then we'll get to the next one after that. This is this is a very busy page, I admit. But Bob shared the national programs plan on a page. This is our version of a plan on the page, historically looking at 2021. So just to orient you, the stuff in the white in the middle, I've already pretty much covered. It's our mission, vision, values, the core principles that serve the Alliance. The column on the right is our emerging scorecard. It's a draft mode. It's proposed. It's not yet final by the board, but it gives you a sense of the metrics we're beginning to track as an Alliance. But the column on the left is where we spent much of our energy and time last year to try to make progress on those 5 strategic priorities. And you'll see them listed there about improving not our marketing, which really, if we are the front door of the Baldrige enterprise, this is our collective ability to get the word out, the brand out, and really build or rebuild that pipeline. Share revenue generating content across Alliance members. We have a lot of really high innovation and ingenuity across the Alliance members, each doing our own things to add value to our own stakeholder base. There was an effort last year, and it'll be a continuing effort to try to coordinate that effort and scale it across the Alliance and all of our member programs. And improve our member value, and you'll see more on the next slide. Those we serve, our members themselves, to add infrastructure and value to Alliance members, and then the scorecard I mentioned, and hiring staff. And we're just this close of inking a deal with our first paid staff, our second paid staff, actually. We have an IT resource we've used and appreciate for many years, but this one focusing on marketing, which does relate to that first initiative, that first priority of trying to grow the pipeline and the brand awareness of Baldrige across the Alliance and the enterprise. I want to spend just a few more minutes on the next slide, which is more prospectively looking. This is 2022's plan on the page. It's in draft form because it's not yet final and it's not yet approved by our board, but it is an emerging plan that's been created by the board and vetted by our members and will be locked down here shortly. The 4 strategic priorities on the left side are similar, but build off of the progress we made last year. You'll see the third one there, marketing, is just expanding upon what I just shared. It's growing that brand awareness, marketing collateral material, getting a little more sophisticated on how we go to market as an Alliance with those we serve, so that we grow the number of organizations and communities using the concept of Baldrige. But the other 3 are fairly new, or at least shifting in certain ways. The first one is really inward focusing on the Alliance itself. It's redefining our Alliance identity, re-examining the mission, vision, and values, which we haven't taken a look at in several years. And I think the experience we've all just endured the last couple of years at least causes a pause to see if those foundational principles have held sturdy or if they need to be shifted in any way. So we'll take our shot at least evaluating the mission, vision, values, and value proposition and see what might have changed. We're going to look at our DEI efforts as well. Bob mentioned that, the national program. We're going to look at the culture of the Alliance, and we've made, even though it's not on the page, we've made a commitment to ourselves to resurrect our own organization profile, which we created years ago, and it's probably terribly out of date, quite honestly, as all the key factors and all the environmental variables certainly have shifted the last couple of years. So that's part of the first strategy, first priority. The second one is building a couple of key processes for ourselves, in addition to the marketing approaches. We don't know what those are yet, but some examples that have come up is how the Alliance internally communicates more effectively with each other, shares knowledge, best practices, and techniques across the Alliance, things like that. So we've declared this the year of the member, the Alliance member, in trying to really increase the value that we provide to Alliance member programs. And this is a key part of that, is to streamline some ways that we operate and create additional value there. And then the last one is really defining or redefining or shifting in some ways our role within the bigger Baldrige enterprise. We've got a great partnership with the program and the foundation and ASQ, and I don't want to shortchange Communities of Excellence, who is an Alliance member as well. But it's really, what are our core competencies? What do we bring to the table as an Alliance? How can we lead the enterprise in certain ways, really building upon the strengths that we have and leveraging our assets in different ways that add value to the whole enterprise. So that's where we're heading in 2022. More to come, certainly in future webinars. And the last slide I have are just a couple of quick updates, just so you are all aware. I mentioned the marketing specialist. We've got a marketing committee that's very active and led by Margot, who's TPE's executive director and the vice chair of the Alliance. We're excited to bring on this new resource and give a little bit of injected horsepower into that effort. So more to come there. The Baldrige Fall Conference is one of the programs that we partner with the program and the foundation on to execute every fall. But it's an Alliance offering. The next offering will be this October 19th and 20th. So put that in your calendar. Expect to attend, hopefully, live and in person in San Diego, hosted by the California Council for Excellence and the Communities of Excellence program, and streamed across anyone that wants to consume that as a hybrid online. So that's coming. And then if you want to learn more about any of your Alliance member programs or any of our other affiliated supporting programs, they're all listed on baldrigealliance.org, and click through links to all of the programs. So if you want to start or accelerate your journey to excellence, or just learn more about the Alliance and our Alliance member programs, check us out at that website. Thanks, Al. Back to you, or I think it may be Lowell to introduce Communities of Excellence.
Lowell, you're up.
All right, thanks, Al. Thanks, Brian. So I'm going to just spend a second on this introductory slide to remind everybody about, let's go back one slide, Jerry. So I just want to remind everybody what's the why for Communities of Excellence? Why are we doing this, and why the urgency? And I for those of you that have been around for a while, you know this idea of, we know virtually everything happens at a community level: educational attainment, health status, jobs are created, safe housing, all of that. But communities are many times dysfunctional in terms of how they work together. And we're just we thought 10, 12 years ago that there's a possibility, a good possibility, that we could use the Baldrige Framework, modify the language and approach to help communities. And so Communities of Excellence is built around this whole notion of the idea that in order for America to improve and sustain ourselves and our growth in the next 250 years of our country, we have to improve the performance of communities and the people who lead and live in them. That's what drives us. Everything in our work with the building the framework, in the curriculum we put together for our National Learning Collaborative, all of those things have been designed to help improve the performance of communities. And I want to make sure you know that that foundation statement, it likely won't change forever. That's why we exist. Next slide. You've heard that at least the House has passed the bill that gives us the opportunity to have community be the 7th category eligible for the presidential award, like the other 6 sectors. And we believe that once the Senate has acted on that, that it's going to really drive interest. And there will be communities, there's only been several communities that have mentioned to me personally that they expect to be the first community to receive the Baldrige Award. And so we're looking forward to all of those communities being the first. As a result of that idea that we were going to become the 7th category, we began to relook at our future. And because this is kind of inflection point for us, kind of the next decade or two of what we're going to be doing. So we re-looked at our purpose, our envisioned future, and basically where we've landed is that, just to clarify, our purpose is simply to ensure that every person in America has the opportunity to live their best life in communities that are thriving, built on that foundation statement I talked about just a little bit ago. And our envisioned future is basically, we believe that communities that adopt the framework and truly integrate it into the way they govern and lead their communities will be the top performing in our nation. And they, like all other examples of high performing organizations that we've brought the Baldrige recipients to pass, those communities will represent the best of the best. And I think will encourage a lot of communities, not only in the United States, but around the country, around the world, in the areas of educational attainment, economic prosperity, health, wellness, quality of life, and other things. And I have to mention at this point, when I mentioned around the world, we've had interest. Stephanie has presented the Baldrige of the Communities of Excellence framework to a group in Australia, and a month or so ago to a group in Japan, and a group of countries that belong to this Association of Quality Improvement Organizations. There are about 20 countries involved. And I think of those 20 countries that are part of that alliance, I think based in Japan, about 12 or 13 countries were involved. And I noticed on the attendance list that there were 2 people from a community in Iran. And so I told Stephanie that if we see changes in Iran, we can go back to her presentation about how you improve your communities. But I'll tell you, there's growing interest around there's just this notion, or all over the world, it seems like, that we've got to figure out how to solve the community leadership issue. And so we're very hopeful about that. Next slide, please. So the key changes out of our strategic planning process that we think are going to be key to this next phase of our development, and both Bob and Brian, Al mentioned this, that it's supporting this whole idea of bringing the Baldrige enterprise, all the pieces and parts, into a high-performing organization. We've got to energize us collectively, the Alliance, the Performance Excellence Program, and the Foundation and Communities of Excellence, all together to make sure that we're in total sync in terms of how we're serving this country. From a Communities of Excellence perspective, we need to increase our ability and our capacity to support communities. The more communities, we now have 26 total communities that have been through are involved in our 3-year curriculum, or are now part of the alumni group. And the more there are, the more questions they're asking about how do you build a scorecard for a community? How do you do community capacity building? How do you bring together the leadership of the community and keep them engaged? There's just so many questions that we've got to figure out. How do we improve? And it takes resources. Right now, our full-time staff is Stephanie, and we got a couple part-time people that are working with us. They're outstanding. But in order to do what we want to do at a higher level, we obviously need more resources, more people, that kind of thing. So part of our agenda for this next phase is to go out and seek additional funding to help us grow the program. Ultimately, what people are asking us, and I think we've defined it as becoming the Center for Community Performance Excellence Resources and Knowledge. We need one place, we feel like inside the country, there are so many organizations that I've come in contact, you've probably come in contact to, that are working on improving the performance of communities, and they're exceptional. They do great work. I think of Collective Impact and Healthy Cities and on. And these have been around for decades. The dilemma that has faced us as a country is that we've got all these organizations and resources, people, financial resources that have been going into improving communities. But when you take a step back and look at the progress we've made at a country, at the national level in communities, it's just not getting where we all need to be. And I think that's kind of what Malcolm Baldrige was dealing with when he thought about what was going on in manufacturing back in the 70s and 80s. We just have to do more, better, faster. We have to do better at leading our communities. So this idea of we don't know, that's not a name for sure, but this idea of a center for community performance excellence with all the resources and knowledge that we can pull together to help every community and every organization or agency that's working in this field is kind of part of our mission. We need an investment in high quality training, support, curriculum packages, whatever the need is at the community level. We need indicators, resources. People need to know what's the best practice. What should we be measuring? What's important? All the promising practices that you can think of from any community. We need to leverage technology much, much better than we're doing now. And I think if nothing else, the pandemic did help us in that regard. But it's also the data and how do we present the data that shows what a high performing community looks like. And that's the combination of communities that come forward to say, I'm going to be the first to receive the Baldrige Award. And pulling that all together is a tremendous task, and one will take us a long time to do. This whole idea of Baldrige, basically, and in communities, is we got to learn from each other. We're constantly encouraging the communities that are working with us to pick up the phone and call counterparts around the country. They're all on Zoom conferences with us, and I'm convinced that they're going to learn more from one another than they will from us talking with them on Zoom calls. And there's this whole notion of research and evaluation to help spread innovative practices and to encourage innovation in communities. It's like building some kind of an innovation center of some sort. So those kinds of things are what we've got in mind in terms of this Center for Community Performance Excellence, and build our own capacity to serve and lead in that way. So next slide. And this is the last slide. So just in terms of upcoming events, we have our spring conference face-to-face in Excelsior Springs, April 21 through 22. If there anybody that hasn't signed up for that, we'd appreciate that that you do so. We're looking forward to getting together again the first time in a couple of years, and we just decided to call the question and bring everybody together. So we'll see what happens with that. We're looking forward to it. Got a great agenda. We expect about 20 plus or minus communities that submit applications for assessment. And that will be the highest number of assessment requests we've had since we began. And as a result of that, we need examiners. Every year we do get a good amount of people that volunteer to become examiners. So we're looking maybe 75 or 80 examiners are going to be needed. So the assessments, the request for the assessment is due May 15, and we're receiving applicants for examiners up until May 1. And depending on how many assessments we need, we'll determine obviously how many examiners we need. So we'll be after you if we need more, and we always appreciate your support. You folks do an exceptional job, and the feedback that you give to these communities, we hear from them on an ongoing basis. We know they're reading we know that your comments to them are very helpful. They take them seriously, and they do make changes the following year in terms of things you've suggested. So it's very important that you do that, and we appreciate it. And then we start cohort 6 in the fall, October 1st. We're looking, each year we look up to 6 communities to join our group. That's what we can staff at this point. And so if you've got a community that you know that would like to become part of the 6th cohort, get a hold of Stephanie Norling at Communities of Excellence and let us know, and we'll get in touch with you and sort out how to get you started. But anyway, that's my update for today, and look forward to answering any questions later on in the conversation. Thanks, Al.
Thank you, Lowell. Very exciting developments with Communities of Excellence. We've got a number of questions to address here. And as a reminder to everybody, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A box and send it over to us. Lowell, matter of fact, the first one comes to you. And that is, how do you see Communities of Excellence interactions with the state programs and the national programs evolving once a community becomes a 7th sector?
Yeah, that's a high priority item for us. We're doing a lot of that work right now. Stephanie has become part of the board of the Alliance, and are figuring out how that's going to work. I don't have a specific answer in terms of exactly how it's going to work, but I know that we're between the Alliance leadership, between our board, the Communities of Excellence board, what Bob Fangmeyer is involved in that group, we will sort out this best relationship. And that's what I said earlier in the comments, and others have mentioned this, that we need to figure out how do we bring the entire enterprise together to best serve the members or the participants. So don't have an answer for that. We know that we've got to articulate that. And as soon as we come to the 7th category, we'll have a process in place to make that happen.
Thanks, Lowell. Brian, the next one comes to you. In looking over your plan for the Alliance, can you expand on your plan to recruit and retain applicants to help grow the national program?
Yeah, I think that's emerging too, but all of the marketing efforts that I mentioned are really related to just that. It's getting the brand of Baldrige out into the marketplace. It's giving tools, collateral material, consistent messaging, different platforms to Alliance members to arm us with, quite honestly, more sophisticated marketing campaigns than we've ever had before, all in the effort to build or rebuild the pipeline and grow Alliance member programs volume that eventually will feed the national program. That really is the goal. And I think coming behind that is more targeted marketing, more segmentation, more thinking about different segments we all want to attract. I think collectively we all said we'd love to get more manufacturers involved, for examples, or more big business involved. I think those efforts are coming too as part of that effort.
Thanks, Brian. Bob, here's one for you. Will examiner training be permanently virtual versus face-to-face, or will face-to-face come back at some time in the future?
Yeah, I touched on that briefly in my presentation. It's really hard to say. There is definitely a benefit to having people come together and work together and be able to dialogue, network during the breaks, etc. So there's a lot of benefit by having folks come together. But there are some downsides also. I mentioned the cost, the time, things of that sort. So I think most likely what will end up happening is some sort of hybrid model where most of the training will be virtual, and then maybe we'll have folks come together, or different groups of folks come together for some specific opportunities to really work together in certain areas and on certain learning objectives.
Okay. Well, the next one's for you too, and that is, will the new revised criteria place a greater emphasis on resilience? And when, it was a two-part question, and the second part was, when will the Cybersecurity Excellence Builder be updated?
Good questions. So on the first one, there's an assumption that we will probably need to do some updating around resilience. You may remember that agility and resilience were actually a key addition, or really not an addition, but we strengthened a lot of the content around agility and resilience in the last version. But I do think we've learned a lot over the past 2 years, and things have changed. So I think there will be certainly a lot of attention placed on that, and we'll make sure that it is updated to the extent that it's needed. As far as the cybersecurity framework, we've always delayed updating that until the NIST cybersecurity framework is updated. And actually, they just went out with a call for inputs. So their process takes a little bit longer than ours. So they will probably be collecting inputs for a good 6 months. They then will sort through all of those and work with various stakeholder groups to identify changes to their framework. And we will then build upon the Baldrige Cybersecurity Excellence Builder based on their changes and the changes that are made to the Baldrige framework in this cycle.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. The next question, Lowell, is for you, and it's, are there any certifications required for the consultants who work to encourage Communities of Excellence 2026 and working with them in their respective communities?
The consultants?
Yes. Are there any
certifications
required for that?
No, that's on our agenda. Yeah, but it's not yet. We've been really anticipating, we weren't sure when the 7th category designation would be approved, but when we get to that point, we expect demand to increase, and then we need to be able to develop training programs for consultants to use to make sure that they understand all the principles involved with the Communities of Excellence framework, and that will lead to a certain certification. So it's on our agenda, but it's not there yet.
Similar to that, Bob, a question, is there going to be a consultant meeting at Quest this year as there has been in previous years?
Yeah, we don't have one set up formally. I actually was speaking to Jamie Ambrosi just last week about that, and we may try and pull folks together if we can find an open space, an open time, but there isn't one that was formally planned this year.
Okay. And this one was a two-part question for Brian and Bob both, I guess. People are asking, is it under consideration to have hybrid conferences in the future where people can attend both virtually or in person?
I'll go first,
Brian, you wanna
Bob.
go first? Yeah, go ahead.
You're too kind. All right, I'll go first because I already mentioned it briefly. The plan is to do hybrid this fall for the Baldrige Fall Conference. It's early in the planning and there's a lot of implications we need to sort through, but that is the plan, is to pilot it, I suppose, of sorts the first time this fall and then make that standard moving forward. But we'll learn a lot from our first attempt this fall.
And from a Quest perspective, we've struggled with sort of the logistics of trying to turn the 80 or so separate sessions that we have during Quest into an effective virtual and in-person event. It's just such a huge lift for that entire event. We have certainly considered and will probably consider a virtual component for maybe the plenary sessions and other pieces perhaps. But at this point, unless things become a little bit easier to manage in that regard, we probably won't turn the entire Quest conference into both in-person and virtual.
Okay. Well, we've got like 7 or 8 of these questions left. It looks like they just about all tie together, and they're for me probably. So they tie into my last slide, which is all of the slides today, along with a video recording of today's webinar, will be available on the Foundation's website early next week for all of you to download in case you missed it or to share with others. And that's free of charge, obviously. So I want to thank everybody here today who did an outstanding job in these presentations. Bob, Brian, and Lowell, appreciate your time today updating the Baldrige Enterprise. And thank again all of our sponsors, especially those who comprise the Mac Baldrige Society, who make presentations like today possible through their generous donations and support. I want to thank you all for dialing in today and spending some time with us. Please be safe out there and look forward to seeing you at the Quest for Excellence Conference in April. Have a great day.